Hey folks, Ariel over here. We have had a few, I think 5 now, sunny days in a row. It's been beautiful and warm, and it has melted the majority of the snowpack, as you can probably tell. And we are going to see what these ladies are doing. First I want to see, well, that feeder's empty, and that one is close. So this is what I've been calling my second hive. It's the daughter colony off of our original hive, and they had comparable amounts of honey, I thought, last fall going into winter. This is the one that was really low this spring, so I've been using a couple of these feeders, just feeding them some of their own honey back, or it might have been their sister colony's honey, but honey from here back. And that I had filled. This one on this end still has some in. They are just starting, as of 2 days ago, to bring in some pollen. I am not entirely sure what they're finding it on. I haven't seen a single thing blooming yet myself. There is some pollen on there. I bet that's still some old pollen. They had some of that left from last year. I would guess it's off a willow bush somewhere. Haven't seen a single dandelion or anything bloom yet, though we should be getting close. I primarily wanted to check on them today because even though they are bringing some pollen in, we have, that frame's totally empty. It wasn't even fully built out from last year. Looks like about a week of rain, snow, ice kinds of conditions coming. And so they're not going to be able to forage. So I wanted to be sure they were not going to starve to death through that period yet. Hopefully after that they should be good. That frame's all empty too. These back ones were some that we had spun honey out of in the fall and that they had just cleaned up the remnants from. I think now that they are bringing some pollen in, I can say that they have survived the year, or the winter anyway. They all look good. Of course, a lot of bees are out of the hive right now. That hive entrance is pretty busy before I started. Check out this thing. You see how there's a clear panel? I just got this hood because I was needing a second hood, mostly so that if I had somebody help me. I believe this is the frame I had filled with extra honey. There's a couple pollen cells yet on there that I know are from last fall because they're purple pollen. And they haven't found anything with purple pollen yet this year, I'm quite sure. They have a little bit of pollen left, and they are bringing new pollen in. Anyway, I had this hive entrance originally faced this way, which is north. There's a yellow jacket. I'd rather not have him get in the hive. Not sure what the camera just did there, so sorry if when I go to put this together there's a gap. There are still some pollen cells on there. A little bit of honey. Is that fresh honey you ladies are bringing in? I did not think there was anything with nectar yet, but there must be. They're filling in fresh honey and yellow pollen on this frame. Let's see if I can show you that. I don't know if you can see the shine. It's really hard for me to see out here what the camera lens is doing in the bright sunshine, but toward the top third there's a good bit of fresh nectar coming in. That is good to see. I'm surprised by that. Anyway, I wanted to, this is almost a month ago now, flip this hive entrance. They survived the winter, but they just seemed like they weren't able to be quite as active on the early spring days when it did get sunny as the hive whose entrance faced south. I know most people face their entrances south. The reason I tried one facing north was because our harshest winds come straight out of the south, and I didn't really want them blowing straight into their entrance. Here we've got capped brood, new little eggs, pollen, honey, capped brood, larva. So this is a good one to look at. So we must still have a good active queen in here. Partially, I do this not even just for you guys' interests, but so that I can go back after I'm out of the hive and look at these in peace and quiet. So there again you can see larvae, little grubs, some still in between the capped brood, and around that I'm seeing... My camera's not wanting to behave. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe I won't be able to do a video of this. Anyway, I wanted to flip the hive while it was lightweight because it was pretty much empty, just bees and frames, and they hadn't yet started flying for the spring to, you know, set their location. Lots of little eggs in a real nice filled in pattern right in the middle of the cell. Some grubs, capped larvae. Same thing on this side. Looks really good. Anyway, but the box is just a little too big for me to flip it by myself without being worried about jostling the bees. So I got my brother Micah said he'd come over after work and help me. And by the time he got here, it was a nice sunny day, a ton of bees. I had messaged him just like an hour before asking if he'd do that. He doesn't like bees, so bear that in mind. He's just finds stingy critters a little scary. By the time he got here, there was this crowd of probably 3,000 or 4,000 bees outside just flying around, taking potty breaks and stuff for the first time. So it looked intimidating. And I did not have a second, you know, bee suit or frame. Here we got more new pollen being packed around the edges, more grubs, capped cells, and eggs. So that's my third frame now. That's similar status on both sides there. Anyway, he helped me. I gave him the hood off of mine and just went without it. Nobody got stung. But I thought I should get a second hood. So if I do need someone to help me with something, especially if they're not comfortable with bees, or if just somebody else is visiting and want to look in the hive with me, that would be easier. Okay, so lots of pollen being packed in on this side. And actually I see one bee there who's got kind of whiter, very pale yellow pollen on her legs. All the others I've seen have been bright yellow. So they must have found a second pollen source. They've packed a lot in there as well as some fresh nectar. Quite a bit of pollen. You guys have been working hard. Don't see any eggs on that, so I think I'm through my brood frame section. Oh, there's eggs on this side. I lied. Eggs and pollen on that side. Looking good, ladies. And if you're wondering what that is on the other side there, that's a pollen patty. I'd given them part of one earlier where I was worried about them starving to death before anything warmed up. I just kind of squished it into the frame because with these closed bars on top, I couldn't lay it on top like a lot of people do with their hive setups. That seems to have worked. Anyway, so in my process of looking for hoods, I discovered this miraculous invention. This is a clear poly something sheet. This makes it so much, this is my first time getting to use it for a hive inspection, but that is a ton of new honey. That is great to see. Again, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but kind of this whole corner has very heavy, shiny, new honey coming into it. I really did not, was not sure that these ladies were finding nectar anywhere yet to bring in. Anyway, it vastly improves, which is what I was hoping for, the ability to really easily see what's going on down in the cells and such. And if there is eggs and so on, you probably notice it's not firmly attached to my suit. The zippers are reversed, and I could have bought a new suit where the zipper match, but I decided I didn't like buying new things when I had a perfectly good suit, so they seem very chill today. Nobody's at all disturbed. I just like to have the suit on so nobody can get accidentally stuck in my hair and I don't have to worry about it, and I can relax and they can relax and everything. But I'm one of these times when I have the time just going to take my little ripper and rip the one half of the zipper out and re-sew it on so that it actually connects to this. The suit and hood combo connect to each other. This is really, really encouraging because this is the hive I was really worried about starving to death before spring. Again, here I've got more new pollen coming in several colors, so that's good to see. Some more on this side. They seem very, very relaxed and happy. Nobody's upset or buzzy at all. So that's good to see. And yeah, well, given that, I don't know, this feeder's almost empty. I think I still may pour a little more honey in here. I don't know if the sun's shining on that enough. You can see there's like an inch of honey in this one, a teeny bit of honey in that, and almost none left in there. So they've almost emptied both feeders. I think they've only got to get through like a week to, you know, hopefully be back to foraging plenty then. And that's really encouraging to see that there is both honey and pollen coming into the hive already for the spring. And it may be enough to get them through this next week. I just know if it's back in the 20s and raining and snowing and stuff, that they're not going to be able to forage for anything. And so I really hate to have them make it this far through the winter and then lose them. So I think just to be safe, because of that, and in case the forecast is wrong and it goes on longer than they're saying, that I am going to pour a little more honey into at least one of those feeders, or maybe a little bit in both, because I don't want them to lose their brood. But I'm really, really encouraged at what I see in here. It's been, I don't know, 6 weeks or so since I'd last peeked in here and realized they were about to starve, and given them those feeders to start with. I did top them off once in between, but it's good to see brood and eggs and such across 3 frames with lots of it, and 2 more that had some, and new nectar and pollen coming in, and everyone's seeming very chill and happy. I did not see the queen. I have never spotted the queen on this hive since she hatched. Haven't seen the queen on my original hive, the parent colony of this one, since the day I originally opened their box when we got them. But they've clearly both been there. I'm presuming that the other hive looks this good when I get there, but last time I looked at it, clearly they both have good queens, laying good patterns and raising new bees. So I'm not too worried about trying to find her. I got what I wanted to see when I looked in here. I wanted to know if they were, you know, about to starve, and to be sure there was still new eggs being produced, so I'd know they had a good active queen. They got plenty of space there to bring in stuff as there is more food to forage for in the area. Clay said, can you imagine being the first poured dandelion flower that's going to open around this area this spring with everything being so late? It's going to be quite the rush to pollinate. So that's good to see. They're chill. I didn't bring any honey down here with me, so I am just going to put their lid back on for now, and I'll just step back here. I don't know that I'll have the camera going, and pour just a little bit in the bottom of each of these feeders, just to make sure that they don't run out before the weather gets good again. They'd probably be okay, but I don't want to cut it quite that close. So that's hive number 2. They were the one I was most concerned about. That's why I looked in there first. I'm going to go check the other hive. So we're over at our original colony. Our winter grade rocks did successfully keep the hive lids from ever blowing off. Did not have a lot of wind this winter, but we got some a few times. And now we get to see what's going on in this guy. This end board has just always been a little snugger than I'd quite like in this particular box. There we go. So you'll notice this one has more frames. It did from the start. It was our original colony. Again, these first few end ones, their hive entrance is over here, so I'm starting at the far end from the entrance. These are ones we had spun honey out of in the fall, and then given them back just to clean up, which it looks like they've done. I'm sure before too long, they'll be packing new honey into it. They've even done some repair. That hole is from where I had cut out a little chunk of honeycomb. There's still a tiny bit of pollen left on there. The pollen, in my experience anyway, with our setup, doesn't spin out, and so it's got a little bit of that on there they could still eat. Again, this hive had approximately the same amount of honey, I thought, going into fall, and if anything, more bees than the other one by a little bit. These are basically just empty, cleaned empty frames. But the last time I checked, these did not seem to need any additional help. I don't know why they used less honey through the winter than the others. If it was that their entrance was facing different all year, or something else that I don't know, but they did seem to go through less. So these are still empty frames, cleaned up, being fixed, tidied up. These ladies seem very chill as well. There are a few dead bees on the floor in the hive. There was in the other one as well. And mostly lots of little bits of wax cappings that they've eaten off the surface of the cells as they've eaten them through the winter. Still almost empty. There's a little bit of new honey and a little bit, just a few cells of new honey and pollen being put in on that side. So now we must have gotten to where they're actually working. That's the 6th frame in from the end. Another yellow jacket that I'd really not rather let get into the hive here while I have it open. Otherwise I don't mind the yellow jackets, just don't really want them in here. Ooh, impressive, ladies. This thing is heavy. I was expecting that to not weigh so much. I believe that is nectar, pollen, and freshly capped honey that they have going on here. Unless a little bit of that was old honey left from last year, because this hive colony did have some left. I can't tell for sure if this is some of their older stuff or newer stuff, but below the cap stuff is a lot of new cells. Like the whole way to here on the frame has either new nectar or pollen in the cells. So this hive is for sure going to have the resources, just looking at that one frame, to make it through the next week of weather. And I suspect if it started there, there's more. Yeah, this one doesn't feel empty either. Here we got a handful of eggs in the middle and lots of pollen, capped honey at the top, eggs in the middle there, capped honey and new nectar as well on both sides there. So that's looking really good. I do notice overall, just looking at my bees themselves, that they generally seem to have a lot of darker colored bees. Some darker and some lighter, but I think the darker ones are often more wild feral bee colonies. So hopefully ours have been crossing with some really good strains. New eggs, nicely placed in the center of each cell, almost to the bottom of that frame. Larva, capped brood, same thing on both sides there. And a new band of honey being started at the top. Again, a little bit of that capped honey could still be from last fall. I'm not positive, but there's definitely new nectar coming in under it, and lots of grubs, larvae of all stages, and eggs in a nice even pattern. I'm not seeing skipped cells or anything like that, gaps in that pattern, as well as a bunch of pollen coming in. Forget which way this was in here, ladies. I think it was like that. So hopefully that means that this queen, who I've also not seen in a year, is doing well. And being a productive hive queen. She'd probably be not quite a year old now, just at a year old. Ooh, lots more larvae. Few cap cells, lots more eggs, pollen. Same on this side. Larva cells, eggs, pollen. You ladies have been busy, so I am definitely, absolutely not one bit worried about this hive having enough resources to get through some crummy weather as far as bees are concerned, because I'm still a ways away from the door here. This one's got some weight to it. Nectar and honey at the top. A few cap cells and then a lot of eggs. This is at least my third. Same on that side, more cap cells on that side and fewer eggs. Lots of pollen coming in, nectar at the top. That's my third good frame with baby bees at some stage or all stages on it. And we got 5 more to go. So this is really encouraging. When I'd last checked on them and told you guys about them, lots and lots of, I'm pretty sure that is new honey and nectar coming in and pollen. Same on this side. Don't see any more eggs, so the queen must be working on those other 3 frames, which is totally fine. This frame has a lot more shiny nectar. Again, I can't tell if I turn it at different angles if the light can catch that shine of the new nectar, but there's a good bit of it. Yeah, so last time I had checked on the bees, they were alive, both colonies, but I wasn't sure if I could yet say they'd survived the winter because it was still quite wintry until these last handful of days, which have made a big difference. I'm also seeing pollen in multiple colors in this one, so they must be finding more than one source now. That's a little bit, I think that's a teeny bit of old capped honey still in that frame, but new pollen and new nectar coming in as well. Anyway, now that they're bringing in multiple sources of nectar and pollen, and the snow is almost off the yard, still a little bit behind the tiny house and in the orchard and a few places, but I think I can say they survived till spring. A little bit of the last old honey in there, I'd say, with new nectar being filled around it, as well as new pollen. Not a lot on this frame yet, but a good bit of pollen, less nectar. That looks great. Anyway, I think I can say they survived the winter. Now, they could always die of something else, but they've definitely survived the winter, which is good. So, of my gigantic sample size of 2 hives and 1 total winter in my life as somebody who's keeping bees, there again you can see they barely touched that pollen patty. That was what I had given them because I was concerned about this one maybe running low with the continued crummy weather, but they didn't seem impressed with that. I guess they didn't need it. They had plenty of their own. They survived. So yeah, with my big sample size here, I have to say that these deep insulated horizontal hive lay-in style hives I'm a pretty big fan of. That is definitely all new honey. This is the frame right by the door. See that? Newly kept honey, and there's nectar coming in as well. And that door entrance is humming. So these guys are going to be totally good. I should not need to look in here, unless it's for my own curiosity, for anything until fall. Again, these bees have seemed super chill. If somebody's going to ask about why I'm not using a smoker, this particular colony, as well as their daughter one that we looked at first, they seem to get more agitated with smoke than not, so I've just not used it. Part of why I do put on a suit, like I said, it just lets me relax and them relax and take my time and not worry about anything, but nobody has even remotely tried to sting me, so I probably could have been without the suit the whole time. But this clear face panel thing in the hood, that is a win. Even if it's supposed to be very scratch resistant and stuff, but I could say after using this just for one hive inspection so far, if it does eventually get scratched and wear out, I'm going to want a new replacement panel in this setup that's vastly superior than using the mesh over your eyes and trying to see through it, especially for finding eggs and stuff. That's just hard to do. I got a lot of propolis on the sides here. These snugged back together. Anyway, so this is really exciting to see. These ladies have all, well, I'm sure nobody who is alive now other than the queen was alive last winter. All of the last year's bees should have passed away from old age at this point. But the colony has survived, which is wonderful. Very encouraging to have 2 out of 2 make it through a record-breaking cold and long winter and look active and happy and healthy and all of that good stuff, and be bringing in a lot of food, considering I haven't seen a single thing open yet. Maybe over in the warmer end of the valley they're flying and finding something there that's opened a little faster than our place, but they're finding it somewhere, and multiple kinds of pollen and nectar, so that's really encouraging. And both queens seem to be laying well, though we didn't see the queen, didn't really spend a lot of time looking for her. Now there is one bee that's got a deformed wing. When I was in here like 6 weeks ago, I saw one that had a deformed wing that time, and I looked at a lot of bees that time and I did not see any others, but there I see one second one, or for all I know it's the same bee, though I doubt one with deformed wing would have lived that long, but all the others look perfect. So hopefully that's not indicative of any kind of major issue going on here. And they have plenty of room for quite a while. Oh, that's probably, if we have a honey flow like last summer, like my dad said, I'm probably going to have to get in here multiple times through the summer and pull some full frames and give them space to keep working, because they are going to fill that up. But other than to do that, be sure they still have room, I probably wouldn't need to get in here, though I will probably, presuming they continue to do well, split both of these colonies once they have enough stuff coming in to be wanting to take a little pressure off the population in the hive, and hopefully end up, we shall see, but going into next winter with 4 colonies instead of 2. There we go. So that is all done, all good. Snug that up so my frames are hanging straight, and that's it. That's our first one I can officially call a spring hive inspection, and I am very, very happy with what I have found in both colonies. So that's that. Hopefully if you enjoyed the bee stuff so far, that's interesting. If I can remember, I'll put a link to where I got this clear hood panel thingy, whatever that's called, because that is really, really nice. I am a big fan, and vast improvement over trying to see through the black mesh when you're trying to see little tiny things in the bottom of cells. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and have a lovely spring wherever you are. Oh, I did bring the camera back with me, so just because I didn't clarify it earlier, this is the end of our first year of beekeeping, totally treatment-free, and they've been fed no artificial anything. This is a jar of their honey, very thick, as you can tell, and that's the only thing we've done is feed them back a little bit of theirs that we had taken from them through the course of the year. No other feeding, no treatments, nothing, and I'm very, very happy with the performance of the bees themselves, the horizontal hive boxes and the insulation, and all of that good stuff. It's probably more than they need to get through that last little bit, but there's a little bit now in each of the feeder boxes that should make sure there's no issue, even if the forecast is wrong and we have an extended cold, wet, rainy spell. But I'm very, very happy with the whole setup in general, and hopefully it will continue to be that way.
We hope you enjoyed it.
Come back next time for more adventures.
Thanks for watching.